this is actually something I realized when I attended the infamous Congress Love and Sex with Robots, which was at Goldsmith, that this fantasy, it's a kind of a double fantasy which relies on the imageries and imaginaries of sex we have. Yes, we have no idea of what sex is, but we rely on the imaginary of sex coming from mostly cultural imageries. And the same happens with robots. And robots are technological subjects. It's a funny thing because there was a super serious survey, like research, done in Germany, I believe, by serious sociologists who were trying to diagnose, see the prognosis for the human interest, yes, in getting down with robots. And the funny thing was that none of the interviewees have ever seen a robot. So, and it was my question, and they were just kind of shocked by the question. So what it means about the survey, that they were just actually researching or surveying, the imagery, the fantasy we have about robots. So, and the same thing is about sex. So, it's a kind of a super interesting thing, showing that we no longer want tangible things. Just like, it's the ultimate thing. Yes, we do not want direct experiences. Yes, we want the, fantasy.
So is your point that we go? Is your point that we go even further into the realm of fantasy? That's what you're saying.
Yes, until the moment. And now Ben is going to flip out. He's going to kill me afterwards. Yes. Okay. Until the moment singularity happens. And it will happen, and it will be nothing we expect. Because now this entire bullshit around and about the kind of, apocalypse of robots, it's an invention of fiction, yes? We have no idea what it might be like, and I believe, and I'm sorry, I believe, that singularity will show different forms of cognition, sentience, and which will not endanger our coexistence. Yes? They might be disinterested in us. That will be a disaster for people, right? They may show, and also there is a kind of a prognosis that, in a post-human planet, yes, when we disappear, yes, which I hope is soon, nature recreates itself along AI. So because, AI will want to keep, biological life, for logical reasons, yes. For level temperature up, yes. It's one of the reasons, yes. So it might be more evolutionary, effective coexistence. But I'm just kind of, it's a kind of my approach. But yes, so the funny thing is about codes. Yes, I am a semiotician. So it's that we want to consume the code, and we take the code into the next level, into the extreme, apparently. Yes, the code that both of sex and our fantasy about what sex is, and our fantasy about robots, technological subject. And it's a funny thing because it's not about fetishism also. Not only about fetishism, it's something else. As if the uncanny valley experience, maybe it's a new fetish, as if it was a new fetish. Yes. I hope I'm okay.
This question is also for Ania. So I, given your citation of Bifo and the commercial you showed, I see a thematics of a certain kind of exhaustion underlying this. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if it's specifically, not just exhaustion in the sense of time, energy, but specifically exhaustion around emotional labor. One of the things that's I've been thinking about recently is this, use of the term emotional labor has kind of bled beyond the way that Hochschild originally invoked it as, like, it's very specifically when you do emotional stuff for a paycheck, for a company.
Yeah.
And people are invoking it, as like, oh, I don't have time to expend my emotional labor. But I wonder if the bleeding is in part because we are so many jobs are emotionally intensive that any kind of emotional activity off the clock just seems too similar to that kind of work. And what is driving the robot is this exhaustion and emotional labor. Is that part of what you were?
Absolutely. This is it was a very strong implication. Yes, like an explicit one. Yes. At some point, I was saying that this is why we want to replace our role of desire machines that invest themselves emotionally as well. Yes, and also this exhaustion about emotional labor. It's specifically about the interactions between organic subjects like people. Yes. Because these are emotionally reciprocal, and we need to respond. It's an interaction. Yes, this seems to be particularly exhausting, as just kind of enhanced by technologies around them. Yes, that we need to be available, we need to respond. Yes, and we don't have space to kind of process the emotions that produce this emotional labor, that are the emotional investment, right? So this is exactly what we want to do. We want them to do the job for us, yes? So we want them to, for instance, be in the conversation with the customers in the restaurant. I'm sure that you know that the famous restaurant chain in the States, Wendy's, right? So they hire like robots, yes? It's a pepper model. Have you ever seen a pepper? You need to. Yes, it's titillating. Yes, a pepper, and because also part of this, it's not only just kind of money or blah blah blah. Because now there are taxes. Robots pay taxes. You have to pay taxes for hiring robots. Yes, but also it's about, paradoxically, this emotional labor. There are, for instance, it's very advanced AI used for like hairstyle salons, yes, where they need to have a conversation with customers around arranging appointments, because that seems to be emotionally exhausting, yes. And that's why, because if it was only a matter of just kind of making an appointment, they wouldn't be investing so much money, yes, and work into making this AI so sophisticated, yes, conversationally sophisticated, really, because they are now super sophisticated. I was hoping Dominic Peckman, I was hoping he would include a video in which he's showing a flirting AI. Otherwise, I would. When a bot laughs in a flirtation, it's beyond uncanny valley, because you have, till the end, you do not know if this is a bot or a human being. Yes. So yes, even laughter, flirting is emotional labor. Thank you for the question.
Yeah, I guess I was wondering if you could say more about your trio with Dominic, about, like, as in your project around peak libido, and how your research might connect with the other senses of peak libido there.
Oh my God. The most climactic thing about our trio is that we're good friends as human beings and as academics. But this is what I think they do. They identify the exhaustion I'm talking about as peak libido. So something extreme to happen, something extreme about a human being and a human experience. Yes? It's funny, what Margaret does with those climbers, for instance, yes? It's too organic for me to even think about it, yes? But, because, I'm comfortable around bots, yes? But, it's kind of, about organic transhumanism. I don't like the word, and I'm apologizing for using it, but kind of, those human beings, humans, yes, just doing something to exceed the capacity of human performance, going far beyond norm, yes, being superhumans, yes, and it's purely libidinal, yes. So this is what I believe. When it comes to Dominic's works, what inspires me, and this is how we started cooperating, is that he's writing about the technique of loving, of emotions, which is also which has been taken into an extreme, sort of, yes. So, and whereas they talk about, just kind of operating, both of them are talking about operating on this peak, yes, reaching the peak, and libido, working around the peak. I think I'm just kind of spoiling fun and just taking it, just when it's exhaustion, when it's decline, and when we need to come up to a new technique of emotional labor, of the exploration and exploitation of libido, which is not about enhancement but a decline, sort of. Does it make sense even? What I'm talking about? So maybe to give you some thank you. Mm-hmm.
This is actually to both of you, or in general as well. So, Matthew, can you hear me?
Not. It breaks up a little bit, so maybe slowly.
Okay. So the question is, in terms of the video, you didn't see that video, but the person is coming home, and I'm on my way, and the response is, I'm here waiting for you. And when I saw that, what I thought about was that now in psychoanalysis practice, we actually have to use texting to communicate with the patients, or analysants, depending how you call them, which is also an issue. But in that communication, I keep on getting these, I'm late, I'll be there in a minute, and then there is a choice that I have to make there in responding as minimally as possible so that I don't spoil the frame, right? Sort of keeping the frame. And in a way, I thought for a brief moment, could there be a digital analyst, right? In a kind of algorithmically sort of, and the question is tying back to, of course, your separation between external limit and internal limit, if I'm understanding correctly, and with maybe Todd's talk earlier, where he was talking about unconscious freedom, unconscious freedom. I think the point I'm trying to make, if this makes sense, is that the analyst cut or analyst intervention, interpretive cut, right, happens on that particular moment of an unconscious slip, which is the moment of particularly also freedom. And is it possible to, is that the sort of place where the limit of the artificial intelligence versus the analytical discourse, right, in terms of the, so that moment of unconscious, going back to, so yes, there's all these fantasy that can be produced, or even the emotional labors can be virtually produced, but that at the point of urgency, the moment of cut requires this kind of a different quality than the other ones. I don't know, maybe I'm humanist at this particular moment, a form of humanism.
Matt, over to you now. You can perhaps take over.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, I did. I'm watching the live feed online, so I did see the commercial. So I know the example that you're talking about. And one of the things that, again, it was broken up, but in Ania's discussion, even what I was thinking about with the Wendy's example, I went with my kids over the summer in Toronto. There's a sushi restaurant that's all robot servers. It's robo sushi. It was kind of a fun thing. But one of the things that I think of in terms of sort of the fantasy relationship and so I guess an unconscious freedom, but also in the way that we're interacting with artificial intelligence. One of the things that I come back to, and this is to me even thinking the category of the human in the analytical relationship, is the way that discourse operates here. And I'm thinking about the form of the transference, for instance, the way that transference, and even if you think about it in a sexual relationship, the way that love versus sex is significant in developing the type of freedom or emancipation for the individual. So what I guess I'm getting at is that I find that what I'm concerned about with artificial intelligence, for instance, is that yes, it can, pull out a phantasmatic dimension for the subject, but there's no kind of, it's too monological, I guess. What I find is that there's a need for the dialogical dimension within in the discursive, so that the subject is made capable of grasping contradiction, right? As I guess Todd would say maybe, but the way that there's a certain level of I guess trust placed in that type of dialogical relationship, where the dialogue itself forces the subject to encounter his, her, or their own sort of lack or gap or contradiction within self that I don't feel you can get outside of that kind of discursive or dialogical relationship, so that there's something in being challenged by the other in the analytical sense, right? Being challenged by the analyst, being challenged by the other in the love relationship, that forces the subject to confront his, her, or their own lack in themselves. And it's only by being able to think and grasp contradiction within themselves that there is a potential for some kind of freedom, if that makes sense. Does that make sense? Is that coming across?
Yeah, very much so. But also just, to wrap up on a controversial note, which I love, I once committed, I'm going to repeat myself, I once committed a chapter on kissing, the matter of kissing. It was the entire exegesis of kissing to ask one question about our relationships, intimate relationships, or relationships in general with those technological subjects. We now naturalize them a lot, yes, anthropomorphize them, but and it's not interesting to kiss a robot or to fuck a robot or to have this alongside or by the code we naturalize those subjects with. It would be very interesting to see what it's like to kiss their way, right? So this is what we are completely unprepared for, yes. And this is a kind of when libido just kind of may start to go up again, yes. Once this, if ever happens, yes.
Is that to me?
You want to kiss a robot?
Sorry, I'm having a lot. It is breaking up quite a bit. So I'm having a lot of trouble hearing different speakers.
I just want to say one last thing. Sorry about this. I'm just doing a new project on Instagram known as Textrapolations, if you are interested. It's a project in radical theory, so those who are interested may want to have a look. Thank you.
All right, so we'll say bye to you, Matt, and thanks for being there on the other end.
Thanks for having me here.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
So yeah, we're actually finishing a bit early, but I think that's okay because everyone's a bit tired and it's been 2 long days. So yeah, we have a sort of loose booking to have dinner together if people are interested at the Rao, R-O-U restaurant, vegetarian Vietnamese restaurant around the corner. The booking's for 8 o'clock because we need to clean up and everything, unfortunately. But yeah, if people would like to fill the gap, they could go for a drink and meet us there at 8 p.m. to keep talking about this or to talk about something entirely different, which might be fun for a while. So yeah, hopefully see some of you there later on. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.